Welcome to the State of the Nation with me, Mike Sham. Now, State of the Nation, we interview a lot of important people, as you all know, but my next guest is very, very important because a lot of people have got to know the name Pace Car Rental through the State of the Nation. So I thought it only right that we get the founder of Pace Car Rental onto the State of the Nation. And after a bit of persuasion, joining me today is Grenville Salmon from Pace Car Rental.
Thank you very much, Mark.
It's great to have you, Gren. And I'm going to start off by telling everybody that Grenville and I have known each other for a couple of years, and he has built a proper business. They've been very supportive to what we've done, and and that has been so important. But we really want to talk about about business in South Africa, and specifically about Pace Car Rental and some of the issues that not only Grenville and Pace Car Rental will face, but many businessmen. So, Gren, firstly, give us some background. I know that you're an accountant by training, but the most vibrant entrepreneur that I've ever met. You've done a few things, eh?
Yeah. I tried a lot of things before I got to Pace.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the one thing that I did along that way was I bought a house on an auction.
Yeah.
And when I pillaged that bond, that was where I got the seed capital to get my first sort of batch of cars for Pace.
Yeah.
So, but all the rest failed.
Yeah. Don't believe him for a second. Grenville's one of those guys that has found a lot of success. So, Pace Car Rental, how long has it actually been going?
This is almost 18 years, Mark.
Wow.
Like they always say, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. And I always remember in that 10th year, people walking in and saying, wow, I can't believe you've done this. How long have you been going? And I would say 10 years. And then they would always be like, oh, okay, so it's not an overnight success.
Yeah. So it's 10,000 hours.
Yeah. It took us the first 6 years. It took us 6.5 years to get to 100 vehicles on fleet.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 13 years ago. I was able to quit my day job. And since then, we've grown to over 6,000 vehicles on our fleet.
Wow. That is
in 13 years. Yeah.
That is spectacular growth. So now there's 6,000 vehicles, and you do a whole lot of things, not just the car rental stuff as people know it, where you get a car at an airport, for example. But you've also had quite a successful rent to buy situation with your vehicles.
Yeah, well, it's leasing with the option to buy.
Okay.
So it's a cheaper form of car rental. But obviously, we want people to keep the car for a long time. So we say to them, listen, if you keep it for 5 years, we'll sell it for $100. And it's amazing how that works to keep people loyal to the company, and they love it.
Yes.
Along the way, the Uber drivers started coming along to Pace and saying, look, we also want to do it. So we ended up getting into Uber as well. We've got about 600 Uber drivers that rent cars from us. So but we've never been in the airport. So
yes.
the tender to go in the airport hasn't been awarded for 17 years. So nobody new has got in at the airport for 17 years. And that means that we're desperate, We take anything. So anybody that wants to rent a car, it's not if we're going to do it, it's just the price. Obviously if it's high risk, we just load the price or the deposit. But I think that aspect of it, of not having it easy, not sitting at the airport and people just walk in. I mean, I remember some days nobody would come. And I'd quit my job to do this, and you would sit there at 3:00 in the afternoon, and nobody came the whole day to fetch a car or to drop one off. And I remember I'd always say, let me just go check if if the battery's still working on the doorbell.
Yeah.
And then, we've come a long way since.
Yeah, because, we have devoted a big part of the state of the nation towards business and economics. I always make the statement that a country exists in two states. Either the country's at war, in which case the only thing that matters is the war effort, or a country's at peace, in which case the only thing that matters is the economy. And in South Africa, sometimes we don't get that right.
Yeah.
I've been very critical about some of the things we do, but I suppose the lesson out there to people that are budding entrepreneurs is that it's going to be rough. You better be prepared for the bumps that come along, isn't it?
Yeah. No, there's definitely bumps that come along. But I think a lot is going right in South Africa. And we always, in South Africa, tend to compare the rich with the poor. But if you actually compare where we are today with where we were 18 years ago when we started,
yes.
I mean, the growth in the markets and the number of customers we have is like multiples.
Yes.
I think, look, what I always say is that, you've got to actually have a product for South Africans. And that's what the guys at the airport have all dealing with internationals. And I understand it because there's thousands of them coming. But there's also a lot of South Africans that want to rent cars.
Yeah, because obviously in our cities, you need a car to get around,
Yeah.
So you
or
are
a bakkie to deliver your beer, or whatever you need to deliver, or trench fiber, or repair cell phone towers and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, Gren, let's talk about a couple of things. Let's talk about doing business in South Africa. It's a rough old market sometimes. We've got some first world demands in terms of red tape. I gaan on a lot about red tape.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to the days when there weren't a lot of employees and you were probably picking up the bulk of your admin. You have to get through a lot of red tape to do a lot of forms to fill in South Africa.
Yeah. I've got during my degree, I studied tax, and I'd say tax is the most difficult thing. I don't know if I didn't understand tax, it would be a nightmare to do business. So if I'm an engineer or some guy that wants to start a workshop or something like that, it must be quite daunting to actually say, okay, I have to go and register, and then how do I do this? And I mean, if you don't buy the right software, it's not like you can just go work out how much the tax is and pay a guy at the end of the month. So I think it is difficult. I haven't found it difficult because I got a degree.
Yeah.
I got a degree in dealing with all that red tape. I've been programmed by the state. But I mean, one of the big things which fortunately has gone now is e-tolls. That was just the biggest waste of time I've ever seen in my life. With car rental, every single car that returned, we had to go and pull a report and then capture that on the system. And you actually think to yourself, you could use the fuel levy, and then when you just fill up your car, you automatically pay 25 Rand or whatever. But they decided that they want to do people to all drive to a place, get a tag, log on to the internet, pay your amount, give the credit card company a cut, and it added no value to the economy.
Yes.
And there's a lot of like inefficient ways of collecting money that we have in South Africa. And something
like the decision to have e-tolls, you feel was made without considering the fact that you go to the highway most of the day, a lot of those vehicles are commercial, and then that's just adding cost everywhere. And sometimes, like in the car rental business, it's just making your business extremely complex.
Yeah.
Something that's quite simple. You're not going to say, here's your car. Now there's a separate bill that you have to deal with.
Exactly. Yeah. It was massive. And, then we didn't have 6,000 cars, but let's say we had 1,000, but to allocate every transaction to a car, and, you either have to get in a computer programmer, but when you've only got 1,000 cars, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
We were using humans and
yes.
allocating it and pulling the reports, and eventually we just kind of gave up, and we didn't care if the report, because sometimes the transactions only came through like 48 hours later, and the customers are saying they want their refunds, and eventually we were like, we're just going to pull the reports on the day, charge what's there, and take the cost of the additional fees that come later, because it was bad for customer service. But and then you get people that just hate e-tolls, and then they just they want to sue you because you've charged them for e-tolls, and it wasn't their choice, and they should have a choice. And
yeah, I can imagine.
So, oh man,
So it sort of typically fits into that realm of law that gets passed, or an action that gets passed by a bureaucrat without thinking through all of the implications of it, and eventually you have to tear them down anyway, because it's bad law that just doesn't work.
Yeah, and inefficient.
Yeah,
I think the inefficiencies outweighed the benefits of charging the actual user. It would have been better just to have an inefficient system that's that charges maybe a couple of people the wrong price, but everybody gets a low price.
Yes. And then roll forward, you've had this remarkable growth. Now is Pace Car Rental. I know that you mentioned that you can't get a slot at airports, because that hasn't been discussed for 17 years. I can't believe it. It's crazy. But you found a workaround there, because I rented a car from you in Cape Town and a few other places, and when you get a car from Pace Car Rental, I presume it's still the same. The car kind of gets delivered to you at the airport. Yeah,
we've improved on it a little bit, because now we share the location on WhatsApp, so you know exactly where your car is as we're delivering it to you at the airport. But most of our premises are so close to the airports now, and the nice thing is, with us, your car waits for you, so you never have to wait in a queue for your car.
Yes.
Because we're waiting there for you.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes they try and chase us out of the public parking where we do the handover and all of that. But it is a public parking, so we can do it.
Yeah, and like all
and it works very well.
Yeah. Like all good entrepreneurs, you find a way to make it work.
Yeah, and we're getting to the volume now where I'm looking at it and I'm saying, even when the tender does come out, I wonder if I think our service, we can beat the service of being in the airport delivering. And, the rents are quite high there. So we seriously looking at it and kind of saying, well, like, should we just invest in being the best delivery car rental and offer because the airport takes like, I think it's 9% tax, 9% of your turnover. So if we can offer you a 9% better price, then
that might be enough to sway the deal.
And actually, if the service is good enough, and I mean, we get a lot of raving reviews.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now, Gren, with a business that grows the way that Pace has grown, you took a big step, and a bit of a controversial step, and that is to hop on board the State of the Nation. Now, why I say it's a controversial step is that on the State of the Nation, we haven't been scared to confront the issues.
Yeah.
Were you ever afraid of that your brand could get dragged into this? If I'm asking tough political questions.
Yeah, I probably thought about it 3 times.
Yeah.
But it never made my to-do list of things to worry about. I got other things to worry about. And but it was, there's so many things. There's trailers where you can put your thing on a trailer and they drive it around Joburg. There's these screens at intersections. There's radio advertising. And, the State of the Nation for me, has the right people listening, because you've got like one of our big markets is companies that need like 10 bakkies for a project, or 20 bakkies, or 50 bakkies. But people that are making those type of decisions are worried about South Africa. They want to know, and that's why I watch the podcast, because I want to know what's happening. I want to know if I must be worried about, should I buy another property in Johannesburg, or should I rent, or what decisions should you make? And you want to see what the politicians are saying, and know whether there's a genuine risk, or it's just hype.
Yeah.
And it's quite, and I think when they've got this thing like cumulative weekly listenership or whatever, but when you compare the cost of that to advertising on the State of the Nation, and when you consider the actual viewership that you've got, I mean, I've never, everybody that says, oh, no pace from the State of the Nation, they either run a business, or they're a senior person in a business, or a CFO, or a CEO. So yeah, you've got a listenership that I feel has buying power.
Well, that's good to hear. And to all the other companies out there, just listen to what the man says. Now, information is power. And these kind of shows are the future. In many ways, I think advertisers in South Africa are going to have to change some of their historic tactics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the thing about podcasts that sets us apart from, say, mainstream media, is that we are not regulated by ICASA or the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. So whoever's on here, you're taking a bit of a risk. We say what's on our mind, and people are getting used to that. People are getting used to people saying what's on their mind, and I think that's the future. In South Africa, we've been quite scared to say what's on our mind, because just now the government pulls your license.
Yeah.
So there's starting to be that dramatic difference between, as they say, mainstream media and what we do on a channel like the State of the Nation.
Yeah.
So it's allowing us to say stuff and to tackle issues a lot harder. We're not limited by those censorships. We're also not limited by time. So it allows us to get a little bit deeper, which means that we've got almost zero chance of getting an ANC politician to come and answer questions. Yeah, that's almost a given. But and of course, then there's the reach. This is going worldwide, but largely in South Africa. But so which brings us to the next point: growth for Pace Car Rental. What does that look like?
Yeah, I wish I knew. Obviously, we just buy cars when, we're running out of those, order another 10 of those, running out of those, get another 50 of those. And the business just grows. Obviously, getting in at the airport is a big thing for us. I think they only do that tender every 10 years. So if you miss it, so 7 years ago they had the tender, but there was a defect in the tender notice, which was challenged in court, and it's still in court, and they just renew the tender every month. Apparently it's a month-to-month lease now at the airport.
Yeah.
So, if we get in at the airport, I think there's a lot of prospects to grow, because I would say the smallest company at the airport right now is probably 4 times the size of Pace. So if we got into the airport, we would, over the next 10 years, we would be able to do 4 times the business, the car rental leg of the business.
So I think we should start a petition to get Pace Car Rental at the airport, so that I can charge Pace Car Rental 4 times more for their sponsorship. Grenville, you mentioned the fact that people that watch State of the Nation there's a lot of decision makers. Not only decision makers, we get viewers across the board. I think some people watch it because they love it, and some people watch it because they hate it. But either way, it translates to business. But you mentioned the one thing, and that people are watching it because they want to get the information. They want to know where the country is heading. And as a businessman operating in South Africa, right now we're not talking about the relationship between pace and state of the nation. We talk about you as a businessman. You have to have a look at South Africa and make decisions about South Africa's future. If you need to get cars, yes, it's driven by demand, but it's also, for you to make that kind of commitment, you've got to be pretty certain that South Africa is not going to go pop.
Yeah. Well, that's why I watch State of the Nation, just to give me comfort, because it's actually quite interesting to watch, especially some of that analysis that Prince Mashele does.
Yeah,
is very interesting, and you also look at some of these decisions, and I mean, South Africa's thrived under the ANC. I mean, we can complain about them, I mean, the Jacob Zuma years weren't good, but the country's thrived. I mean, we went to Zambia and we went to Livingston, Vic Falls and that. And I mean, it's, I would say, worse than the poorest area in South Africa. I mean, kids running around. I mean, I looked at it and I was like, wow, we've come a long way in South Africa. Because, I mean, you can even go into Alexandria and the kids have got better schools and better equipment and better clothing than what those kids had there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Livingston's quite a big tourist destination for them. So I think, from my perspective, I believe that the ANC, as long as the ANC is still in power, then business can thrive in the country. So it's nice that the DA is helping them stay in power, but I think it's very important that the ANC is stable. And I think also they've also realized that some of their sort of policies and things need to be tamed because of the losses they suffered in the elections.
Yeah. There's definitely a new situation going on in South Africa, a new world. And I do think that the change in a lot of the landscape, including the media, where people are not scared to say what they think. In the past, I think that the ANC in the government as it was, before the last election was, what do they say? The Queen used to walk around England thinking everything smelt of fresh paint,
Yeah.
Because obviously they paint the place before she arrives. But I think that when you only listen to the SABC, if you were in government, you think you're doing a hell of a job. But in the meantime, now people are sending them clips of what is being said on social media.
Yeah, and they're being held to account. And that helps. And the ANC that's being held to account, because it's important that everybody in South Africa does well.
Yes.
Because if everybody's hungry, we're gonna have riots, and so it's important that you do have the social side to things, but it's also important that you allow businesses to thrive. And Pace employs almost 400 people, and the sad thing is that all the people that I know are better than me, who would have built bigger businesses than me. They all live overseas now. Because obviously I'm a chartered accountant. I did my articles at Deloitte, but all those brilliant people have left.
Yeah.
And I often wonder if we could have just hung on to half of those people, what an impact it would have had on this country.
Yeah, it's quite a thing. I just recently pulled some numbers on that. We've lost about 700,000 South Africans to the first world. And of those 700,000, more than close on 250,000 are black South Africans, professionals. And that's when you realize that even with policies like BEE, professionals would rather go to a place with a more certain future.
Yeah.
Because they can thrive. They know that there's a life for their kids and their grandkids. And it's such a pity that we missed the opportunity in South Africa to look ahead and, and nurture and cherish the talent that we've got. Which sort of brings me into the question that I wanted to ask you. I've got a particular thing that I'm not very happy with historically in South Africa. but it's only been a problem for the last 80 years. And that is that under nationalist governments, they never ever support, it never feels like they're very happy with commercial success. Businessmen who make money seem to always be in the crosshairs instead of being, sort of like feted and cherished in a country, in the country. These are the people that make jobs. Instead, they get slandered and called names.
Yeah, no, it is interesting.
Yeah.
Look, and like I'm saying, it's so important that everybody in South Africa does well.
Yeah.
When during COVID, we had all those Uber drivers. Now, before COVID, we were the heroes because we were empowering them, giving them cars. They would, what happened is they used to drive other people's cars, and then they would get 20% of the takings. And we came along and said, run your own business, rent a car from us. And if you rent it for 4 years, we'll sell it for 100 Rand. And they were like, wow, I'm running my own. But when COVID came and nobody wanted to ride on an Uber, Uber gave them a 400 Rand Boxer voucher to help them out. That was like for 3 months they were supposed to use it. But that was when I learned that you can't argue with a man with a hungry stomach. And we did a whole lot of things to lower our pricing and help them to make money, and but I mean it was hectic, and I think a part of it is that there's too many people that are jealous. But how do you get rid of those jealous people? You need people to come into this country and start businesses and give everybody jobs and give them a hope that they can also get promoted and get to the top of the pile and have something in their lives. And unfortunately, we're scaring we're scaring away the very people we need to make the problem go away.
Yeah. Now, you obviously, you mentioned the Uber thing because it is an empowering of small business, one vehicle at a time.
Yeah.
How many Ubers do you have out there on the road?
We've got about 600 between, some of them do Bolt, Uber.
Yes.
Some of them do deliveries for various services. And
so these are people making a living. You've created the platform for them. Well,
yeah.
Grenville, I want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for helping us grow the state of the nation. You've been with us since our numbers were considerably lower than what they are now. And, it's been great to have you on board and for you to help us build the channel. There's a lot of big things that we've got planned for the state of the nation. Yeah. And we're looking forward to having Pace on board for the fun part now as we go from our 600 cars to 6,000 cars.
That's great.
So thank you so much. And remember, you can go and rent a car from Pace through their website. Use the code SONA, SONA, to get your discount. Subscribe to this channel. We want to support small business. We want to support people like Pace Car Rental because they've supported us. Grenville, Salmon, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Subscribe to the channel. That helps us. We'll see you again on the State of the Nation. Thank you.